So hello everyone, and thanks for joining. So it's more like a session about things no one told you about OKR. It's mainly addressed for C-level. If you have any C-level contact at your company and want to persuade them with getting into OKR or improving the OKR process, then this talk is for you. So let's start right away. C-level things no one told you about OKR. So when I talked with the Orga team about which curated session was missing, I think this one is on top of the list. Because when we do OKR consultings and coachings with a lot of companies, there's always the C-level problem, for example. And this talk is all about C-level and what things you should avoid and what things you should do, especially as a C-level in your organization, to enable the success of OKR or to enable a better usage of OKR inside your company. And the reality in companies is there's too much push from top to bottom. As we remember, OKR is a framework which fosters, on the one hand side, the top-down initiatives and top-down goal setting, but on the other hand, you want to have bottom-up goal setting. And there's in literature and in the community, people say, okay, you have to have around 40% of top-down and 60% bottom-up. And my main point here is that's bollocks. That's really bollocks. And we will come to the points later why this is really not useful in the companies. And if there's one takeaway from this session, then this one. The most important thing to address as a C-level is the freedom to the teams to be able to contribute throughout the OKR process, throughout the overarching goal, to achieve the overarching goal. So your teams need to have the freedom to be able to contribute to company objectives by deriving their own initiatives. And if they don't have the freedom, the whole thing won't work. So this is the number one most important thing. So the idea is how to fix that. And we will try to address some kind of impediments and things that should be addressed there, because there are a lot of companies who do a lot of mistakes here. So this leads to impediments that could be easily avoided if they stick to some simple rules and some simple practices. So let's see what you can improve. First thing is the purpose of the OKR framework. When introducing OKR, you need a purpose. So our recommendation for the purpose is use OKR as a change management tool. So what do we mean by that? We mean, what is the one most important change we want to achieve as a company in the upcoming cycle? And if you think in this way, then OKR will get a lot more powerful than before, right? So the thing is, less is more. We see a lot of companies, and there's also a notion in the community that you could have 2 to 3 company objectives with around 3 to 5 key results each. We believe that this is way too much. People are so overburdened with work. So we believe in less is more, unless you are Google or Facebook. So the thing is, go and focus yourself on one top level objective, the one goal you want to achieve for the upcoming cycle. And then you reduce that to the most important key results that support achieving this goal. Reduce until you have more practice after some cycles. So start with one, reduce that until you have more practice after some cycles, and then carefully add 1 or 2 key results if needed. But my overall suggestion is stick to one company objective, because nobody is Google, right? And at the top level, if you imagine you have at the top level one company objective, then down the road to the other levels, you have a lot of objectives. And this normally leads to overburdening work. So stick to one company objective. What's the most important change you seek for the next cycle? You should also declutter. Alan told already in his keynote, OKRs should not reflect the full product or project roadmap. A lot of companies put their day-to-day work or feature ideas into top-level OKR sets, and this leads to distraction and defragmentation. A product roadmap can inform itself from a company OKR set, but not the other way around, and you should stick to the most important goal you want to achieve in the upcoming cycle. So, for example, if you have a product with a roadmap, that's fine. That's also strategic. But if the company says, okay, our strategic goal is this one thing, then you should derive into your product roadmap feature ideas or strategic ideas that contribute to this overall strategic goal, right? So this is very important. OKRs don't reflect the full product, or if you're a project-based company, the project roadmap inside the company. Then there's the thing about free time. You have those OKR buddies. Some people say OKR master. So I mean the group of people who support the OKR process. So there has to be some kind of support structure inside the company. Hence, we call it OKR buddies. They guide the teams, including the top management, through the OKR process. We have seen companies where OKR buddies are only responsible for the teams and not for the top management. But I would recommend that the OKR buddies guide everybody in the company, and this includes the top management. The OKR buddies have responsibilities. They help and support the organization regarding OKR. It's a little bit like the Scrum Master who helps and informs the organization about the usage of Agile and the usage of Scrum, for example, and the benefits that brings it with it, and the changes that need to be implemented in the organization to fully foster and reflect the usage of the framework. And therefore, they need free time, of course. Maybe not that much, depending on your size, on your maturity, and other factors. But it should be crystal clear that their work is important for the enablement of good OKR practice in the company. So as a leadership, as a C-level, you have to give them time. Maybe there's not much time needed if you've got into some more cycles and if everybody is used to the process and used to using the framework, and then teams can help each other. But at the beginning, they need to have time for this. So give them time. That's our advice here. I called it no shopping list. What do I mean with that? So avoid integrating every idea from leadership into OKRs. So do you have a great leadership team which is very engaged and where everybody has personal separated goals? That means incentives. Maybe you experience that they want to integrate their personal goals into the top-level OKRs, which leads to the tendency that you want to create more than one company OKR set. That's not a good idea. Avoid this by focusing on what's most important for the company. So as a leadership team, you should talk openly about personal goals and why you have to look at global optimization for the company. So it's the always discussing about local versus global optimization, right? So maybe you also want to get rid of personal goals and incentives, but that's for another talk, a topic for another talk. So avoid integrating every idea from leadership into OKRs, which leads to a lot of OKRs. And as I said, stick and focus to just one OKR set. OKR is like a looking glass. OKRs show you organizational impediments. Some companies tell us OKR doesn't work. Our answer is, like Scrum or other Agile frameworks, using OKR will be like a looking glass onto your organizational impediments. And we think management is in charge for solving those organizational impediments. So welcome the fact that if organizational impediments arise, it's okay, put them on a board, and then as a leadership team, go reduce or solve them. Of course, you cannot solve everything, because if you think of theory of constraints, if you solve one impediment, then there will be another, and that's a whole never-ending cycle. But your duty as a management team is to uncover those impediments, to welcome that these impediments are mentioned, put them on a board, prioritize them, and then try to reduce or resolve them, right? Everybody in the agile world talks about empowerment. And regarding OKR, I think that you can succeed with OKR with lots of bottom-up OKR that comes from the teams. So I think there's one simple rule. You need a lot of bottom-up OKR sets from the teams. And as I mentioned before, there's a rule in the community that says around 40% are top-down and 60% are bottom-up. I would say you need only 20% or 30% top-down, because it's okay that leadership tells this is our overarching goal we want to achieve in the upcoming cycle. But then you have to foster around 70 to 80% bottom-up. That's my main point I want to make here. Succeed with OKRs in order to enable a lot of bottom-up OKRs that help you achieving your top goal, right? Then there's another thing about free time. The idea is that teams can derive work initiatives out of their OKRs. So imagine you did the first steps, the teams wrote their own OKR set, and they did the horizontal alignment and all the things, the good things the framework tells us. Great, that's really great. But then in a lot of companies, there comes the reality. Teams aren't able to derive their own initiatives because they are already overplanned 100%, 120%, due to several internal processes and strategies that also exist in parallel. So to succeed with OKR, you have to have in mind that teams should be able to derive their own initiatives, projects, feature ideas, and whatever not to contribute to the overarching goal. That's one of the key things to succeed with OKR. If there's everything fully planned with the teams, and think about the yearly planning processes in larger companies, and especially old classical companies, there's no room for deriving initiatives and project ideas out of the own team OKRs. And then the whole thing doesn't work, because OKRs are the strategic goals and the teams are not able to do anything regarding their OKRs. That also means that as a C-level, you have to look at the overall processes inside your company. You have to change your planning process to reflect the fact that OKR needs some kind of team empowerment. A lot of companies, especially those with unempowered cross-functional product teams, they have such planning processes like a project planning or portfolio planning process. And these are often planned way in advance, like I said, the yearly goals, and due to always shortage of humans, or maybe not prioritizing in a good way, the existing teams are over-planned with projects. And in order to succeed with OKR, you need to adapt your existing planning processes to reflect team empowerment and to enable that initiatives are created when OKRs are set for the cycle. So that's one of my main advice and one of my main questions when I talk to customers. What is your planning process? What is your portfolio planning process inside your company? And where could OKR stick within that? And what do you have to change for that? And most C-level managers are really shocked when I tell them, okay, yeah, OKR is on the strategic level, but teams need time to create some ideas and initiatives out of their own OKR sets, right? My next advice is to avoid short circuits. So don't derive OKR from already existing project or product roadmaps. What do I mean with that? There's a tendency to use short circuits. While these are usually great, they can lead to a bad usage of the OKR framework. So don't derive OKR sets from project or product roadmaps. It may be a good idea to start with that when you begin using OKRs. So you have some existing project or product roadmap, and then you start with OKR. It may be a good idea to inform yourself about what's in the making, what's our roadmap plan for this product, and then create some ideas. But you should only do that for the first cycle. The better idea is to have it the other way around, so that you set the overarching goal and then derive your initiatives or derive your product goals for the next cycle, right? And then there's another one, output versus outcome. That's a huge discussion in the OKR community. And my main point is, use outputs if it leads to progress. Of course, we totally recommend to create outcome-oriented key results. But maybe you are struggling to define the outcome-oriented key results. So it's okay to start with output-oriented key results as long as they are not binary, so you can measure progress along the way, and they are not task lists, right? We've heard that before in the keynote, yeah? And you can also define output-oriented key results first and then think about what do you want to achieve with this. And answering this question leads you to a more outcome-oriented thinking, and then some kind of key result will uncover that you could use instead. And my main point here is it's more about the conversations between the people, either at the leadership level or at the team level or at the horizontal alignment. It's more about the conversations between people than about hard metrics, right? At the end of the day, okay, profit and loss is about hard metrics, but it's the people that make the difference. And you need those conversations to uncover the outcome-oriented key result measurements. One thing that's not so mentioned in the OKR books and in the OKR communities is that, of course, as we are agile, we should inspect and adapt at every level. So you have to have retrospectives for the win. In the agile world, we use retrospectives to continuously improve ourselves and the outcomes we are working on. So it's a good idea to use retrospectives and to reflect about the progress of OKR and the OKR process itself through retrospectives. You should use inspect and adapt at every level, from the top level of the leadership team down to the teams that contribute with their OKR sets to the company goal. We would not recommend to use existing product retrospectives at the sprint level for this. Carve out extra time for OKR retrospectives because OKR is at the strategic level and not at the operational level. You have to think about this difference. So you have to carve out extra time for facilitating OKR retrospectives. And regarding facilitation, I really would recommend to use the existing Scrum Masters, Agile coaches, moderators you have inside the company to facilitate those retrospectives. Leadership teams should not facilitate themselves such retrospectives, right? And of course, everybody is talking about ownership. Somebody has to own the OKR process, right? And my main stance here is that ownership is not about the leadership. Somebody has to own the OKR process in order to drive improvements, okay? And some companies tend to put this at the leadership level. I wouldn't recommend that. Have a look at people that are not at the leadership level inside your company and who want to own and improve the OKR process together with the teams. As I mentioned before, a OKR buddy group may be a good idea. They should also work with the leadership team who owns the top level OKR. So you have a support group called the OKR buddy, OKR masters, whatever you call them. They should work also with the leadership team. Let's have some advice from them, right? And regarding leadership team, it's also about free time. What we see in a lot of companies, leadership team says, okay, we own those key results and we are the drivers of the key results, and we may come to better ideas in a second. They are responsible for driving the company key results. So in their notion, in their ideas, they think, okay, we need to drive them forward and to talk regularly to the team so that we make progress to the key results. That's an issue in a lot of companies where leadership teams do this. And why we wouldn't recommend that? It should be clear that those people also need time to talk to the teams. They should address the why of the key result and maybe adapt the key result if you see you won't reach the key result. We will come to that in a short moment. But I think we should talk about better ideas how to improve that, right? So the first thing is reduce the pressure. Don't drive key results. Support them. The first rule is don't drive the key results as a leadership team. It's old words and thus old habits, which may lead to too much pressure on the teams and the system itself. The system is your organization. So choose your words wisely, right? Let somebody from the crew drive the company key result. So I think there's a better idea to solve this problem. Find somebody from your crew, your employees, to be the driver of a company key result. Of course, you have to define clearly what to expect from a driver. For example, support the teams, uncover impediments, and such things. This frees the burden from the leadership team and distributes leadership as a function into the company, which is a core agile practice, right? Leadership, of course, we have those organizational leadership, the hierarchical leadership, but in the agile world, we try to distribute leadership as a function into the company. Maybe it's also a good idea to have a tandem, so two people. One is a member of the leadership or management team together with one employee, and they form together a key result driver tandem where the employee gets contextual support from the leadership team member, but the employee is responsible for talking to the teams and supporting them so that they can get the context from the leadership team member why there is this company objective and these company key results. And whatever you decide, have a look at how you distribute the leadership function in your company and where and how enablement and empowerment takes place. This is really important to look at and then to decide and change maybe the idea of driving the company key results. There's another one. No success with key results during mid-cycle. We often see this in companies who tend to load too much on the plate at the company level. They have not only one objective, they have 2 or 3 company objectives, and with each 2 to 3 key results or 3 to 5 key results, which is a lot. And it's hard to believe, isn't it, right? And if you have your bi-weekly company check-ins and you look at the progress of the company objectives and the key results and you see you don't have any good progress and there are too many impediments, then of course you should think about changing the key result. There's nothing wrong with not reaching your key results. Really, management, there's nothing wrong if you don't reach your key result. It's a learning framework. It's just a sign there's something wrong at another level. And so maybe either way, you have to work harder on resolving impediments or just change the key result, especially when you realize the key result is not a good key result anymore because you tend to want to achieve too much inside the cycle. So that's why we work in cycles. That's why we do inspect and adapt and to change the key results. And our advice, my advice is, don't do inspection and adaptation at the end of the cycle. Just do it in between. And if you realize you won't reach it anymore, just change it. Inspect and adapt. That's all about. We are always asked, is it okay to have the same objective in the next cycle if it's yet important? Of course, usually we say no to you have to have a new objective in the next cycle. Some C-levels ask us, oh, okay, so with each cycle we think about the new objectives, right? And we say no, it's okay to repeat the same objective for the next cycle if you think it's yet the most important change you have to achieve and you haven't achieved it yet. But you should also reflect why you have to repeat it. Is the objective too big? Are the key results too hard to reach? So just use the time and reflect on the objective and its key results and think about what changes on the OKR set can help you to succeed better, right? And if you look at that, and if you give yourself time, especially in the leadership group, to discuss about that and to check, okay, is it a good objective for the next cycle? Have we reached everything? Is it okay regarding our market position, regarding the market environment? Then you can repeat it, of course. But maybe you should reflect about, do we want to have the same key results? Do we have to change things there, right? One of the most important things is to have a vision. So go have one for your company. Numerous companies don't have a company vision. And to be honest, while it's okay to start an OKR implementation without a company vision, we really recommend that you create or have one in order to align your strategic better on the company vision, your strategic goals better on the company vision. So it's just an easy thing. Go have a company vision. And then what we see in the European OKR usage, there are some molds. They call it molds. We call it molds. It's midterm goals. So in order to have a better stability and alignment for your company OKR itself, you should have so-called midterm goals, molds. These are the goals for the next 12 to 24 months, which support the company vision. And those midterm goals don't necessarily have the domain language of the OKR specifications, or writing a goal and have some key results. You don't have key results at the mole level. You just write your goal, you write down your goal, plus the context why you think this is the thing we want to level up the company for the next 12 to 24 months, right? And after that, it's easier to derive company level objectives from those midterm goals and have more stability in it. Another thing we see at companies is strategy processes. So if you're a big company, chances are high that you have an existing strategic process. And if you want to implement OKR for your business area or your big department, you have to try to align the OKR on those pre-existing structures. This might be a little tricky, but it's worthwhile. External consultants could help there to bridge the gap between those two things, because it's a lot of change process involved here. And of course, if you're a big company, you won't change the big strategic process. But your company OKRs can inform themselves out of this strategic process, right? So just use external consultants to help you in this. That's my recommendation here. The other thing is about writing OKRs. We believe that while it's good to have well-written OKR sets, it's better to have a crystal clear communication about the why of the intended change. That means the why of the company objective and why you want to measure those key results. So give additional context to the company, and we weigh that more than writing good OKR sets. Of course, having a good description of the OKR set is a win for you, but you should not focus on that. It's more about the context. It's more about how do you communicate that into the company, what you want to achieve, and which teams, especially which teams you want the help of them, right? Additionally, we believe that you get great horizontal alignment when you get that. This is better than everybody contributing 100% to the company OKR. So why is this, and what do we mean with that? Because the art of horizontal alignment means that there's healthy exchange between the teams, healthy communication. A lot of grading of the team OKR sets is happening, and more camaraderie regarding the company goal will happen. So at the end of the day, you get a lot of motivation to contribute to the company goal if you focus on the horizontal alignment. That's my opinion, right? So try to use that as a C-level, try to carve out time for the horizontal alignment. And if the teams see and talk to each other you will get great motivation to contribute to the company goal, I think. And the last one, sorry for all those tool vendors out there, tools don't matter for OKR. I really mean that. Tools don't matter. Of course, you need a tool where you foster your OKRs, where you have your Friday wins, your check-ins. Some do it in Jira, some do it in Excel, some do it in Confluence, some use one of the specialized cloud tools out there. But if you want to implement it, tools don't matter. They also get in the way if you focus too much on the tooling sets, right? So my wish for you is to go and succeed, because the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And if you want, we can open up the Q&A session now, and I would love to be connected with you on LinkedIn or on our Agile community. So thanks for listening, and if you have any question, just come to the stage and drop your question.